Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our Paws on Netflix podcast.
Yes, in today's podcast we're covering the Netflix series Sweet Tooth. No, it has nothing to do with going to the dentist or candy.
Or clowns. Now this is based on the DC Comics series, and the show's set in a post-apocalyptic world where Gus, a human deer hybrid, journeys to find his mom and discover a world where hybrids have become commonplace.
Yes. And before we start with that, be sure to like, subscribe, and notification with updates in future podcasts and multiple videos.
Absolutely. Now, personally, I'd never heard of this comic series. Did you?
No, not at all. Didn't even know it was from DC Comics. I assumed it was from Dark Horse or Image or somewhere else. Now, I also surprised to learn it was directed by Robert Downey Jr. and his wife.
Yes. And they did a fantastic job.
Yes.
And we also have in here a butler who's actually Butler in this being Artemis Fowl.
Yeah, it's like, you couldn't even wait to get to that, could you? Okay, I guess we might as well get to the characters.
So, first, if you've read the comics and you really know a lot about them, let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, did they stick with the source material? Did they make some updates for the show? Kind of like what they did with Umbrella Academy.
Right. Now, the way it starts off, you you get what has happened, and then it works its way backwards,
right,
to telling you how things got to be as they are.
Right.
And it kind of, to me, was a lot like watching This Is Us.
Yes.
Where they kept having insertions of flashbacks and so forth.
Right. And for here, you get a slight backstory on this world. Apparently, there was some type of unknown virus going around. And there was also for some reason there were hybrids popping up. Like kids were being born and they were half animal. They had like feathers, fur, snouts, claws, whatever.
And they all were adorable.
Right.
They really were. The way they designed them.
Right. And there was a belief that the hybrids caused the outbreak because it was meant to parallel real life events or taken to the extreme. Or maybe it was based off of the comic and just adapted the events in real life to it to add to the story. And for here, the virus was just taking people out. They would have some sort of sign with their pinky, and then they'd be gone within a few days.
And they also were thinking that the hybrids were causing the virus. And then they also, unfortunately, were hunting these children to take spinal fluid for them because they said that was the cure for the virus. So it's a great show, but it gets kind of dark.
Yeah, but a lot of times it actually gets dark. Not with just that, but there was like so many hunters in this show. I mean, of
not
course,
like Supernatural.
Right. And you know, it's a given. Right. It's a given that whenever you have a show about animals and the main characters, the hunters are gonna automatically be the bad guys in this. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, so you just kind of deal with it. But in here, there is, if I had to nitpick about something, it would be like, there's too many hunters. Like, almost every person Gus meets is a hunter of some way, some shape or form. Either they hunt the hybrids, they hunt regular animals, or they hunt people they don't like and they just want to take them out and take over their position. It's like, man, everyone just became savage.
And you had these groups, like in Mad Max, that formed their own little groups, as I say.
Yeah, pretty much.
They either were pro-hybrid or anti-hybrid.
Right.
And you didn't know until it was too late either way whether they were going to take them out or help them.
Right. So it's sort of a big guessing game throughout the series, and you're worried that someone's gonna turn traitor, or you don't know if someone's gonna reform. You just don't know till you keep watching. So it kind of keeps you interested on how the characters, because they could just change at a drop of a hat and just be someone else entirely different.
Now it starts off kind of innocuous. You have Gus, who's living with his, he didn't call him Papa.
He called him Pobby.
Cobby. With his Pobby. And you see him from a baby and how he raises him and teaches him things, and he starts making him custom books that are canon in our universe.
Right.
And at some point, something happens to his dad. And we're trying to give you this without telling you so much to ruin your experience. And that's how he ends up setting out to find his mom. But in the meantime, he meets a guy who's a former hunter, which you don't find out until later, played by
Alonzo Nosey.
Yes.
And
who is brilliant and fantastic in this movie. This is how Butler should have been if you're going to change Butler to be this type of character. this is who he should have been in Artemis Fowl. They totally dropped the ball and missed the opportunity.
Right.
Because he's a fantastic actor.
Right. And he plays a character they call Big Man, pretty much the rest of the series. And if he had acted like this in the Artemis Fowl movie, you would have been fine with the fact that he had changed his look from the book. We're like, hey, he plays the role well. Okay, we'll give it a pass. But yeah, somehow the guy acts more like Butler in this movie that's nothing to do with Artemis Fowl better than the actual Artemis Fowl movie.
And you find out his backstory later, but he ends up befriending Gus because of events that happen, and they end up journeying together. And they run into these different groups that are either pro or anti-hybrid. They are in danger of being killed on multiple occasions. And then I think it's 12 episodes or 13.
I think they're about 12.
12. And then toward the end, you start getting everybody's true backstory, and then you have a cliffhanger. So we tell you that it's absolutely worth staying with this. At first, you get you wonder, are you going to stick with it? Because as you said, it starts paralleling some events from 2020. And you have other characters that are in it that are doctors and people who are trying to find ways to cure the virus.
Yes.
And then they have a lot of ethical questions. They have a lot of doubts in what they're doing, whether it's right or wrong. And you have one doctor in particular whose wife has caught the virus. And up until this point, he had been giving her the fluid or the cure, having no idea where it was coming from.
Right.
And then the person who was actually developing the cure disappears.
Yes.
And then he has to take that person's place, and he ends up learning the truth of where the cure comes from.
Right.
And as you mentioned, you've got these bad hunters who actually go out and get this fluid, and they sneak it in. It's not counterfeit, it's illegal, I guess. And they end up sneaking in under all these supplies and things, and they come once a month.
Right. And they believe that this is the cure, but you kind of get the feeling that it's not the permanent one. It just stays it off for a while, and then if you don't take it after a certain amount of time, the symptoms start coming up again. So they kind of leave off this thing where, okay, the hybrids don't get affected by the virus. They neither caused it nor are they affected by it. So they are trying to look for another way to find this permanent cure that will still save the remaining people on the planet and keep from taking out more hybrids.
Right. And I think what this show does really well is you have these different arcs that end up intersecting at the end of the season.
Yes.
And they do it so well where everyone somehow gets equal opportunity coverage.
Right.
And everyone's stories and characters are fleshed out, and everyone's stories and characters are interesting. And they've done a great job at doing that. You know, sometimes you watch these shows and they have too many arcs and it just doesn't work.
It's like
you wish they had done less. But somehow here they've made it work. The writing is spectacular. The acting is spectacular. Everyone in here does a fantastic job in portraying their characters.
Yes. And as you said, the cliffhanger leaves you definitely wanting to see season 2. So you are hoping that Netflix does not cancel this, because we know they have a history of canceling things way too soon before it gets off the ground, because they're expecting big numbers out the gate. So we are hoping that there is enough attention, enough traffic, and enough talk about the show like Umbrella Academy for it to gain a renewal for a second season, because we would not like to we don't like to watch a show where you start and get invested and then it leaves on a cliffhanger and then it'll never be resolved because they've decided not to continue.
What I'm really hoping, since it's DC, is that probably both Gus and Big Man end up being superheroes, in the sense that they start saving the hybrids and saving people and finding out the true source of the virus and how to eradicate it.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
Right.
Since we haven't read it, that's where I think it's going to happen.
It sort of reminds you, it's like almost like a live action version of Kipo and the Age of Wonder Bees, where you got people that want to get rid of the bees, but they're not the issue, and then you got this group that want to keep them safe. One wants to take them out, and think that'll save everyone. The other group doesn't want to live with them. So yeah, maybe it will go that route and they start rebuilding the world together, because I kind of want it to be like Dr. Stone, where it's gonna stay post-apocalyptic and no buildings, technology, or nothing for the rest of your life. Like, I can't do that. No, I need something.
Right.
I need some conveniences. They weren't all bad.
So if you have seen Sweet Tooth, or you've read the comic, let us know what you think in the comments below. Did you like it? Are you looking forward to season 2? Who's your favorite character? Do you think they did a really good job of having multiple arcs but fleshing out the characters and the stories?
Right.
If you haven't seen Sweet Tooth, please go to Netflix and give it a watch. We're telling you, you're really going to enjoy this series. Yes, it gets dark, but it's really well written, perfectly acted, well performed, I should say. And it seems it's going to be very negative and dark the entire time, but it isn't. There are bright spots. And toward the end, they do give you the indication that it's going to turn out better.
Right.
And that's what kept me watching it, because it was like you're watching, it's getting dark, and you're like, it's got to get better. You don't want to keep seeing these things happen.
Right.
And then they give you the olive branch, like, we know you stuck with it, we know you watched it, but guess what? It's gonna get better.
Right.
Just stick with us. And we are.
Yes.
So we suggest that you do too.
Yes. And be sure to like, subscribe, and notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
And see Butler, the real Butler, in action.
Right? So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Mascot Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.